Creators Circle is a weekly call for creators like you to ask your questions about the law of attraction. To get information on how to connect, please go to cocreationcoaching.org/creators circle.
Welcome to the Creator Circle. This is call number 6. And how is everyone doing today?
Really well.
Of course you're really well. All good. Yay. Justin's doing well. So I'll just make a brief announcement for those who are listening to the recording after the fact. If you want the transcript, you can sign up for it. If you're not already, you get your email address and you can get the transcript that way. So they're private now so that you can sign up for the mailing list. So this is a good week for me. There's lots of interesting topics this week. Well, actually, the last several weeks there have been. But I'll get started by asking, are there any topics or questions you guys want to talk about?
The things that I know I need to do, I already know what I need to do. But I'm not doing them.
You're not doing them. Why aren't you doing them?
Exactly. So
yeah, I understand that.
I've got to work on that myself.
Yeah, it's
hard. It's being consistent and actually almost writing out a program for myself, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll get halfway through the day and I'll think that, I was going to do this. As soon as I woke up, I was going to, do some creating. And here we are halfway through the day and I haven't really consciously thought of it. Having said that, I have actually had a few things happen lately that might have actually crossed my mind 3 or 4 years ago. And I haven't really been working on them at all. And suddenly I'll think, oh, wow. I was thinking about that when I lived in the last house.
Oh,
whatever.
Wow. Right.
So that sort of confused me a little because the stuff that I'm actually putting time and effort into isn't actually happening, but maybe it will in 4 years' time.
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
No, the thing that jumps out to me is not to be too hard on yourself. I mean, I don't have a super specific routine. I don't do anything in the morning. Okay, my morning routine is I get up and I cannot start work right away because I'm like oh my God, I don't want to get up. So I get up and I listen to the New York Times podcast. That's my kind of morning routine to get out of my tiredness. And I go to work. I don't really do any creation in the morning because I just don't. I do it more later in the day. I mean, technically, this is what I was told when I was going through the hypnosis training, that, everyone says, like, in the morning's the best time to do subconscious work.
I don't know about that.
I wasn't told that. I have learned it's within about 30 minutes before sleep is the best time to do subconscious work, because when you go to sleep, your subconscious mind kind of dumps everything you've been experiencing throughout the day and sorts through them, and that's what your dreams are.
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah, and the stuff that's right at the end of the day takes precedence because it's just happened. So, not to say, I'll do it any time of the day, and, some people go so far as to say it won't work if you do it any other time. That's not true.
Make any sense, yeah.
But it will take precedence if you do it right before bed. And so that's when I tend to do mine. So I'm not really a morning creation type of person, if that, you know what I mean? I don't really do techniques in the morning. I'm not really structured about mine. I don't know. I mean, I just do it when I think of it or at nighttime and take out a few minutes, just be like, well, we're just going to think.
Or if you're thinking about it anyway, just do your visualization thing.
Right. I mean, I guess everyone's different in that some people like to have more structure than others, but if you're kind of condemning yourself for not following a self-imposed structure, then it's probably not working the best for you.
I'm definitely not a structured person.
Okay.
I'm not either.
Moving the energy flows.
I thought that if I kind of made myself a routine, that at least I would get it done, because sometimes I can go 2 or 3 days not consciously creating, not keeping the momentum up.
You can create. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bree.
No, go ahead, Justin.
You can create a routine that puts that creation at the end of the day. Like it doesn't have to be, because if it's not going to, if you can't stick with that routine, don't do it. Like I do things off feel. I don't really do a routine.
Right, exactly.
You know, now I will in the mornings. What I found is just sheer like chakra work, balancing, or energy work when I feel like it, but not really the creation step too much. Just like the chakras or just flowing, just to get my energy set. I do stuff like that, or I might do something else. But I don't do a lot of creation unless I either feel it or it's at night. At night, I do a lot at night. Like
well, mine has actually ended up being at night, basically because I get to the end of the day and I think, oh, I haven't done it.
And you don't have anything else coming up right in front of you there.
Well, yeah. And here's the question. Okay, how long do you do these techniques for?
Probably only about 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Okay, you say only about, and I'll tell you, the last time I did 10 or 15 minutes of focus was like I don't remember.
Never, I don't think.
Like I'm really okay. I am all about minimal effort. All right, so I'll do like 3 minutes. I think
claim to be lazy. Okay.
I think that you're putting too much on yourself, because when you are like, I got to do 10 or 15 minutes of this,
don't even set a time.
Then it's just do it as long as it feels good to do it. I mean, I'm really relaxed about how I do it. You know, it's not this super structured thing. I'll just do it when I remember to, or, you know, by the end of the day, or, you know, or like my thing is when I'm going to sleep, I'll do it. And because, you know, it takes me a few minutes to go to sleep. So as I'm drifting off to sleep, I'll just kind of think about my goal and feel good about it and do some goal statements or whatnot. And that's about it. But I think you're putting too much pressure, because it doesn't take 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, if that came naturally, I'd say, okay, great, that's wonderful. But if it's not coming naturally and you're sort of putting it off, it's actually not really getting anything done for you in that sense.
No, it's not.
Right.
Just do it. Yeah, I could never. People say 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night.
Yeah.
I could never do that, because when I got up in the morning, for me, sometimes my energy will flow, and sometimes it doesn't. And it's like I have found to try to force it, it just does not work. So,
and anyway, you're busy.
Do it.
You know, like in the morning, you're sort of thinking, well, I've got to be in Glenfield by 10:30, and on the way there, I've got to go to the post office, and you know, like it's very easy to get distracted.
What helps me in the morning is visualizing my day. Now that does help. So when you visualize your day and pull the energy down to construct your day so that it actually works the way you need it to, that actually does help.
I do it in segments of my day. Like, well, only when I'm anxious about something, I'll kind of do an affirmation or a goal. I like to call them goal statements because it seems more direct. But I'll do goal statements for a specific part of my day, and that turns out well. But I just think that you don't need to be so hard on yourself about this. You don't need to do 10 or 15 minutes. You can do 2 minutes, and if you feel good about it, it's great. You can do it. I mean, if it's a big goal for you, you're going to be thinking about it during the day. I mean, if you're not thinking about it, then you're not really adding enough momentum. But if you're thinking about it, then you can take like 30 seconds and just take that time and check in on how you're doing with it. Not obsessively, not all throughout the day, but a lot of times I'll think about it and I'll just sort of add a little more momentum to it.
I do that. That's what I do.
And that works really well for me.
Or get rid of the resistance. So you
right.
You can add more momentum or get rid of the resistance.
Or get rid of the resistance, yeah. Because a lot of times it'll be the middle of the day. I'll start to get really anxious. A lot of resistance will come up. I'll just go into mindfulness for about 2 minutes, even just a minute, till it's gone. And then I move on with my day. And it's not, this is more, I don't want anyone to see this as work. I want you to see this as very playful and very light and very easy, where you don't have to do this super strict regimen of, this like 10, 15, 20 minutes of focus or something, because it's just not productive, especially if you're putting it off. This time should be relatively enjoyable. I mean, obviously you do have to do inner work, and so stuff will come up, but the time of working on your goals should be pretty enjoyable. It's not something you should be avoiding, and if you are, then your subconscious is trying to tell you something, like you're pushing too hard.
Either you're pushing too hard, or you're not ready for it, or it's not the goal for right now. It could be any number of things, but
I wouldn't say it's not the goal for right now, unless someone's really like avoiding it for some reason. But I would say some people just
find the reason.
Some people try to be too hard on themselves for no reason whatsoever. It's just like,
and I have found that when they tell me, you need 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. For me, I get a lot of energy work in through the day, but it's in segments. It's not in 30-minute blocks usually, unless. Right. But there are times when I have meditated or when I have done a goal for 30 minutes. But that was only because I was in rhythm. I was in that energetic flow, so I just did it. But I don't time it usually.
There's no good or bad about it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
On 30 minutes.
You literally, literally what you want to see when I do that for long periods of time, that's doing several things. I might be dumping energy. I might be setting stuff. You literally only need a couple of minutes a day. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to like obsess over it, man. Just do it whenever you feel like, oh man. And then if you miss a day, hey, you know what? You were supposed to miss that day.
I've said before, I'm really bad about doing it daily, even though I say to do it daily, do it daily, do it daily. I'm very bad about it.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's just do it whenever you think about it. Like,
well, in a sense it does, in a sense it doesn't. Like, I've realized when I'm avoiding it, when I'm not focusing on it a lot, I'm not really adding a lot of momentum to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I'm afraid of it not working. I have resistance that if I push forward, because I tell every one of my clients this. In fact, I had a client Saturday, and we worked through some stuff, and I told her, I said, look, because how much resistance have you been experiencing? Not that much. It's been going pretty well. I said, okay, well, we're going to change that. I said, after the session, I promise you're going to have an influx of resistance. And she's like, is that not a bad thing? I'm like, nope, it's not a bad thing. It's what you want because it shows you you're working towards your goal. So she emailed me literally maybe a couple hours after the session. And she's like, literally just after we got off, like maybe a few minutes later, things started coming up, like things I haven't thought about for a long time. And I said, yeah, that happens. So, this stuff is hard in that sense where you are going to get resistance. So if I'm afraid of moving forward with a goal, I will avoid it. I won't focus on it. Or I will get into that daydream kind of thing where I'm like, oh, it feels good. It's really nice, I've been more strict with myself lately on that, where if I notice I'm avoiding it, I notice that I have a goal. I won't say what the goal is. Christine knows what the goal is, but
I do.
My business coach assigned this goal to me. Certain number of clients by a certain date. Okay. And
I will tell you, though, you're almost there.
Yeah, I'm getting close. So I, but I've been, at first, I was like, oh my God, it feels really overwhelming. And I realized I'm avoiding it. So I said, okay, I'm just going to dive into this goal. I'm going to really, really focus on it. And when I say really, really focus on it, I'm not saying 10 or 15 minutes. I just mean I'm going to be more purposeful. I'm going to be more committed. I'm going to be more direct. And about this goal. And so I'm going to say, this is what I formed a goal statement. If you don't know what that is, I have a blog post, or not blog post, a podcast. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
From yesterday, from Monday, and we were talking about goal statements and what they are and why you need them.
Really?
So, yeah, we did. So I did a goal statement. I wrote it down. I typed it down. I even kind of, I don't know if it was intuitive or just felt like it, signed my name on it, because I've seen that idea of other places, like write down your goal and sign it. Signed it, put the date, and...
How the heck did you sign it with a computer?
I just typed my name. Leave me alone.
Type your name.
Well, they have those electronic signatures you can do.
Yeah.
Just type your name. The universe don't care about
it. The universe isn't like, you didn't sign it right.
Didn't sign it right, boy.
I didn't know if you used an electronic signature. I was curious.
You haven't got a huge florid B.
I got a stamp with my name, Don't you remember me getting that stamp?
Yes, and I think we threw it out.
And he stamped the computer screen.
That's right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pick on you. I was just
anyway. So I signed it and I dated it, and
that's awesome.
And then I kept focusing on that goal statement. I would repeat that goal statement a few times a day. Okay, I had like a 30-second to a minute routine. I would repeat the goal statement, feel good about it, do the little timeline technique we covered last week in the Creator Circle, and work through any resistance that popped up, and then I move on. And that's been working really well, and I got another consultation today, another client, and so it's been working really well. And so that's what I do. It's not this, you do want to make sure you're not like avoiding it, but you also don't want to be too strict about it. I don't know. I try to do it most days because you want to do it more often than not. And if you're not doing it a lot, then you might say, what am I afraid of?
And I have run into I realized I was avoiding a goal before, and I have ran into I didn't really want that. Okay. I actually discovered that. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was so mad with myself.
That can happen.
But yeah, sometimes it's what are you afraid of too? Or you afraid of it?
Usually I think it's what are you afraid of?
Because I had a goal I was doing that with.
Yeah, I think, like I said, usually I think it's you're afraid to go there. Like a client I was just working with said the same thing, where it was like, she said that, it took her a while to really make the decision to really work with the goal because it was sort of scary. Like there's almost this, what if it actually works even?
Yeah.
Or what's going to come up, or so it's scary. Our goals are kind of scary in a way. And
people might think different of me.
And that can happen, but it's just, it changes. I've talked about how they change our identity. Like goals really transform us. They really change us. What's going to happen when I get this, or what I'm going to have to face to get there is another thing.
Yeah. And it's painful. Then you get moody, and then you take it out on your husband, like I do. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's why I'm afraid to go too deep, because I get very, very emotional. Yeah. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, then I'm going to take it out on Brandon, and then, and I've done that, and I'm like, oh, that's not worth it.
But
I'll just warn him. I have a goal coming, so just be prepared.
I have a goal coming.
But yeah, I think being more deliberate about it, being doing it more often than not, doing it at least most days. Try to do it every day, but don't be too tough. But like I said, it just has to take a few minutes, and it's not this big scary thing or anything. So I think that we just have to have a lighter view about it. I talked last week about having a light touch with this stuff, or when was it? I don't know, a few weeks ago. About having the attraction versus, that was 3 weeks ago, having the attraction versus force blog post, having a light touch with this stuff, and not trying to force it, not trying to make it happen. It's just it's a gentle process, but it's also scary and it's also difficult. So We want to look at what's going on, why we're avoiding it, why we're afraid of it, but also push forward and, keep focusing regularly for a brief period of time. I guess I usually do 30 seconds to a minute, and that's about all I need to do. And I can hear other people might say, like, well, you've been doing this for a while, so we might need to do like an hour or something. I'm like, no.
Ooh.
I'm just hyperbolizing, but
I've heard that though.
Right. Well, yeah.
It up.
Like I need to do it for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. No, I really think that the less you make of this, the better. Yeah. And if you're just really light about it, and if you just, kind of do it really easily, really effortlessly, then it's going to happen a lot more quickly for you.
Well, when you think of the opposite, when you think of things that go wrong that you didn't want, you certainly didn't sit there for 15 minutes thinking about that. It was maybe a brief thought,
Exactly.
and it comes to pass. So, yeah.
Right, exactly.
It depends how much power's in it.
And it depends how much you react to it emotionally. I think fears a lot of times are things that we obsess about. They're always kind of in the back of our minds. We're always sort of going there and going there and going there and going there. That's how I work anyway, with my own anxiety and my own fears. And then they start to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is that you don't even know that you're doing it a lot of the time. You're already there. You've already been thinking along those lines when you think, stop.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's hard to work through those fears. But yeah, this stuff, I think, as you go along, you get a more intuitive feel for how it works. And so you don't have to make it this big structured thing. You don't have to do all that stuff. It's just, well, okay, this is what I have to do. And I really encourage people to get a good intuitive feel for, where they are in the process and where they need to go in the process. Because, I'm sorry? I
was going to say, because yours is going to work a little differently, say, than Brandon. So you want to also know how you work too, just how you feel.
I would say, I think your subjective reaction can be a little different, but the overall principles are universal.
Should be the same, but it should be the same. I'm just saying that you're going to have a little bit different alchemical. I've just noticed that I've had to switch my alchemy just a little bit. I guess the way it feels for me is going to be a little different. Right. I've just noticed when I try to do something exactly like someone else, it doesn't work for me as well.
Well, because I think it's a thing of changing. Okay, so I'll give an example real quick. So one of my favorite teachers is Joe Tabanella. I've mentioned him many, many times. The guy who teaches the Hypnosis and the Law of Attraction course. And his technique, no technique worked for me at first. I tried his, I tried Abraham's, I tried everything.
You should have
method, I tried structural tension. Nothing worked for me. But once I started getting results, his made the most sense to me. It worked for me the most of anything. And yet, he took a lot of inspiration from the Sedona method. So I thought, well, I'll check out the Sedona method and kind of get, the source material. And sometimes that can be more potent than someone who takes from it. So the logic goes. So I go to the Sedona method, I learn it. You were there last year, Justin, as I did that.
Yes, it was.
And so I did that, and the way they describe it, and see, I'm a very observant person, so I notice these things. The way they describe it is very subtly different than how Joe describes it. But that subtle difference, for me, following the way the Sedona method did it, caused more resistance. Whereas following the way Joe did it caused less resistance. Okay? It resolved resistance and I made progress. And yet he says he took inspiration from them. But here's the thing. the way that someone words what they're experiencing, like the people who develop the Sedona method and who have success with it might do something where when they put it into words actually causes people to do something else. Mm-hmm. And I've had this happen where I'll describe a technique and people, someone will try it and they'll say, am I doing it right? This is how I'm doing it. And I'll be like, I didn't even think you could get that interpretation from what I said. No, that's not what I meant. Okay. Yeah. It's not necessarily your fault. It's just how you interpreted my words. Yeah. Like, people would always have trouble with my description of the zero state, and they made this big, huge thing of it. Like, it had to basically be like samadhi or something. It's samadhi, like you know what that is, right?
No, I literally was in shock when people couldn't interpret anything.
So, like that, and I was like, no, you're making way too much of this thing. So I know how that is. So I think that the principles are universal, but when we put them into words, because this is a very energetic process, so when we put those into words, and then we transmit those words, and then people read those words, and then their filters create it into something of their own, they apply it, and it's like, hey, it doesn't work for me. Well, that's not exactly how I'm doing it. You're not really doing it the way I'm doing it. And so the raw technique isn't going to work because you're actually applying it differently.
Yep. That's kind of what I meant.
So I think it's a language thing. It's not a technique thing per se.
And I don't mean to jump in, but it kind of reminds me of even different religions or belief systems. Right. You may have central doctrines, but everyone's going to take that doctrine and believe it differently.
Right.
Like,
yep.
Like,
I'll tell you this: the mindfulness thing I love is the clouds in the sky.
Yeah,
that has worked for me more than any other mindfulness method.
Yep, that's a great one.
I have even the one that we were talking about before that, and I'm like, yeah, this works pretty well. But then when I was, the clouds for the sky, for me, that just
that's a great one. Like, for example, I've been talking to clients about this. I say, so there's a subtle difference between going and looking for resistance to work on and focusing on your goal and working on the resistance that comes up. There's such a fine line. And that was the difference between Joe Tabanella and the Sedona method. The Sedona method has you go and look for resistance, whereas Joe's technique has you meet the resistance as it comes up, but your focus is on the goal. That difference is so fine, so subtle. What the heck was that?
That's cool.
What was that?
Those are like birds.
Crikey, are you picking up the birds that I've got outside my window?
Yeah, it was pretty though. Don't worry about it. It was pretty. It was an interesting bird song. Like, that's cool.
That was beautiful.
Anyway, but the difference between, those two things is so subtle. A lot of people get it wrong. A lot of people actually create immense problems for themselves. And because we get this idea that, okay, we're supposed to work on resistance, so people go and track down resistance until it's dead, and it doesn't work, right? And that's really subtle. And so a lot of people get that wrong when I'm trying to say, work on the resistance that comes up. And so they go and try to find more and more resistance and dig deep. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
No.
Let the goal bring up the resistance. Don't go digging it up. That's not what it is. So that kind of thing is really subtle, but the way you describe it is so key. And, and that's why I think like coaching is really effective, because I can see real time what someone's doing and nip it in the bud and be like, no, that's not what I meant, or that's not what you should be doing. That's not the proper way of doing this technique. Here's the way to do it.
And sometimes you just need people to tell you.
Yeah.
Because you cannot counsel yourself ever.
No.
It's hard.
And you can't, I'm not saying you can't help yourself, but oftentimes you just need someone to look in at you at a different perspective and be like, oh.
You do.
Yeah. You can probably save a lot of time that way.
Oh yeah, I tell everyone I get so sad about people who say that, oh yeah, I've been working on this for 6 months or a year or 2 years or whatever, and I haven't gotten there yet. but it's just around and they're so optimistic. It's just around the corner, and I can really feel it. I'm like, no.
If it's not a real big goal, it shouldn't be no year.
It shouldn't be. I tell people I tripled my income in about 9 months. If I can triple my income in 9 months, I'm pretty sure you can get your goal in 3 to 6 months. That was an ultimate level goal. And that took a lot of focus. It took a lot of work, but not like intense work like what we were talking about earlier. It wasn't. I never focused for that long, but it took a lot of inner work. So I tell people, if I can do that, then I'm pretty sure you can get this goal. But yeah. So, but coaching can definitely cut down the time because it's, like I said, we have blind spots. I've told people things like, and they'll say, now that you say it, it's so obvious. But before that, I'd never thought of it, Of course that's how it is. But now, I never thought of it before you said that. And I've had the same thing, with the coach I'm working with. And so we have blind spots. We need help. We need, slight correction that if we're doing something wrong a little bit here and there. And having someone else to help with that is awesome. So
there's her.
Oh, and plugging my own services. But if, in all seriousness though, like if those, especially those who are listening, and, if you really want help with that, I really do suggest, I do offer free consultation now. I just started that. And
do it. He'll change your life.
Seeing how I can help. And, I've never seen a case where I wasn't able to help if they apply the advice. That's the key.
And that's the kicker. Yeah.
If you apply the advice, then I can help. But
I know that, I worked as a registered nurse, and sometimes just watching, a junior come in and see the way that they would do a job.
Exactly.
And you could say to them, look, if you do it in this order, it will take you 1/3 the time.
Yeah.
And I can see that happening with you. That,
exactly.
like in this coaching or whatever, that, hey, do you realize that when you do this, that happens?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. Really? Right. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, duh.
I've only been doing it this way for the last 5 years.
Right. It's always, like I said, it's always, when people, when I always ask someone, how long have you been using the law of attraction? I always get anywhere between 2 to 5 years or so. And they're not, especially if they haven't really gotten, I'll ask, have you gotten a big manifestation? No, not really. Maybe one, whatever, but not really that consistently. That's, to put in, let's say, up to 5 years into something like this and not really get the big stuff. And some people will go so far as to say, I think it only works with the small stuff, getting parking spaces and stuff like that. No, it's totally not true, but you're not doing it right, and you're spinning your wheels. I think it's invaluable to sit down with someone who knows how to do this and say, okay, here's what I'm doing. What am I doing wrong? It's
I think also when you first start, it's difficult to know that you actually did do that. You're working on something and it happens and you think, oh, it's just been a coincidence. Yeah.
Right. That's a tough one. Yeah. So it's hard, but it's a lot easier when you sit down with someone and here's what I'm doing, tell me what I'm doing wrong, how can I get to that place? And it's so much faster that way.
It's energetic, yeah. Especially if you can't see the whole process. Like, if I go to school, I sign up for school and go to class. It's pretty.
Exactly.
But, when you're doing something like this, it's energetic.
Right, exactly.
Sped up, the same thing happens. It's just energetic.
Yep. So, I think that's it for today. Thanks everyone for participating in this. And
topic today.
Yeah, the topic was actually really good. CPK, you did have a question. So, so that was really good. So thanks for participating. And again, for those who are listening, you can get the transcript if you sign up. form is on the same page, so you can do that. And please leave a comment if you have any questions or comments on what we discussed today. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.